And yes, I want to play. I really, really do.
The difference between Dexter in the show and Dexter in the book can be summarized in one word: ritual. But before I explain what I mean, let's go over who Dexter is. In the TV show, Dexter claims to be many things: emotionless, a broken psychopath, a fake person, a monster. But I would argue he's not really any of those things. Yes, he is massively messed up, as any serial killer is, but he isn't emotionless. He has them, they're just massively dulled. When extreme things happen, he has the right reaction. He shows sadness at having to kill his brother, refuses to kill Deb, and he shows genuine guilt when he finds out that he's the reason why Harry killed himself. And also, as the seasons progress, his feelings also develop further. But Book Dexter? Nah, Book Dexter is a different kind of animal. Book Dexter is everything that TV show Dexter claims to be and wants to be. Dexter in the book is straight up a psychopath. He has little to no emotional turmoil at all. He is happy to manipulate people and is always playing his own angle. I mean, when Deb gets kidnapped, which is one of the most stressful situations a person can be in, he makes a list of all the things he could do in that moment. Go back to bed, maybe go see Rita. Finally, he decides to go save Debbie because he thinks it's the most fun choice. His sister is literally at the whim of a serial killer, and he cares more about meeting the killer than saving his sister. That is Book Dexter in a nutshell. He enjoys the game, he sees himself as an intellectual, and everything is just amusing to him. I get the sense that he's bored with day-to-day life because he can't enjoy the simple things that normal people do, like connection and community. So he goes with the one thing that entertains him: killing. Hell, he doesn't even enjoy sex. In the series, Dexter at the beginning is shown to have a mostly indifferent attitude to sex, but more because he doesn't understand the social aspects involved with it. He's trying to hide his dark nature and he finds sex to be too revealing. It's just an inconvenience to him.
I don't understand sex.
But once him and Rita gets into it, he enjoys the act itself, as proven by the fact that he then has multiple partners over the show. In the book, Dexter finds the concept of sex kind of dirty and disgusting, which it is if you do it right.
You behave.
Imagine doing those things. How can you? Where's your sense of dignity? Brother, I don't even know where my sense of dignity is. When he does finally have sex with Rita, he doesn't talk about it in a positive manner. More like he can't believe they ruined the couch. They didn't even break it or anything, they just had sex on it. But to him, that's broken, because he is, after all, a neat monster. Now, I'm gonna say something that might sound a bit controversial. I kinda liked the guy. I'm not gonna lie.
Move this man!
When I did the Joe book versus show video, I talked about hating Joe in the books, and I stand by that statement. I want to throw Joe in a wood chipper and see what comes out the other side. The act of listening to the book was a hate read, but like in a good way. Like when you can't stop watching those Karen freakout videos on YouTube. But while Dexter is a murderous psychopath, he's actually fun to listen to. This is no reflection on the actor who plays Dexter. He does a great job of playing that version of Dexter, but you can kind of feel like he's putting on a show when he's acting normal. But in the book, if I didn't know he was a killer, I could imagine chilling with him. He's witty, he's funny, he shoots the shit with his sister and colleagues. Like, for example, Dexter makes a comment about blonde white girls being most likely to be kidnapped, and his response to this is, that's not fair to dark-haired and dark-skinned girls. There should be equal rights to get kidnapped and killed. Say what you want about the guy, at least he's not racist. Plus, that is some A-grade dark humor / political commentary. Or when his sister complains that Dexter isn't helping her enough in the case, his response is by saying, you're at a crime scene, you're fully clothed, I don't know what else you want from me. That is exactly the kind of thing I would say to my friends in that situation. This makes it more believable that people would want to be friends with him, but also more realistic that more people are suspicious of him. In this aspect, he gives me more Dexter Original Sin vibes. He's more casual describing his dark thoughts to others. He even refers to the eye struck killer as an artist to his sister, who's like, what the fuck?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Since I bring up his sister, what about his relationship with other characters? I will be honest, the show does a much better job at expanding the other characters, which makes sense because most of the book is just Dexter's thoughts, and that would be pretty dull to show on screen, so they had to add a lot of stuff. Let's get through the characters who are barely in the book. Batista has like 4 lines, Masuka has like 2 lines. Dokes' whole thing is he comes in like, Dexter's a little creep goblin, before disappearing for 7 chapters, and then repeat. Rhea has like 2 scenes. One, they go on a date where Dexter leaves her to go to the crime scene, same as in the show. I did notice a little difference between the show and the book though when it comes to this scene. In the show, Dexter grabs her thigh seductively. In the book, she does freak out, but it's because Dexter outright kisses her. Maybe the show wanted to soften the idea of Dexter and consent, because showing murder is just fine, but an unprovoked kiss is just too damn far. But whatever. She calls him over the next few days later for sex, same as in the show, and then she calls him the day after to flirt about it. Her kids are mentioned but never really interacted with. Harry is mentioned quite a bit, but in relation to the code of Henry. But the only time we actually see him is in relation to Dexter's first kill, when he kills the nurse in the flashback. He's treated more like a code of conduct or an idea than a person. No, there are only 3 characters with any significant time spent on them. Let's start with Deb, Dexter's sister. Dexter and Deb seem to have a less emotionally close relationship. This is something I noticed as early on as their first phone call. In the show, Debbie does ask for help, but she also has a little bit of banter.
Please. Pretty fucking please with cheese on top.
In the book, Deb's is much more matter of fact. Come to the crime scene, I need your help. There is no talking about their personal lives. In fact, it's usually Dexter who tries to initiate those kind of conversations, and she's the one that shuts it down. This aspect I discussed about Dexter's real life act being less solid in the book is clearest with Deb. In the show, she doesn't know he's a killer until season 7 and is completely oblivious. She's not even suspicious. What doesn't help her case is that she also dated the ice truck killer. Is it incest if you date your adopted brother's biological brother? I don't know, let's ask Barry. He's the expert in technically not incest laws, okay? Even though they are both great at faking being a person, it doesn't make her come across as the most competent detective. In the book, she immediately knows something's up. She isn't naive to the fact that Dexter can think like a serial killer and that isn't normal. She's constantly questioning him about it, and she finds out the truth at the end of the first book. She comes across as less naive because of it, but also not as smart. She doesn't solve anything herself. In the show, while Deb does ask for Dexter's help, she's also shown to be a good detective in her own right. She picks up on clues, she moves the cases forward. In the book, she does none of that. She solves nothing, no clues, no cases. She isn't even the one that figures out that the killer uses an ice truck. Dexter is. I hate to say this, but it does make her feel like she's riding her brother's coattails to detective. To be fair on her, there aren't as many cases as in the show, so take that as you will. Another aspect of their relationship that is missing is her jealousy about her father prioritizing Dexter. I actually think the show did such a good thing by adding this in. I really liked it. It makes so much sense considering how much time the two spent together and the secrets they kept from Debs. It's so natural to feel excluded, and the show does such a good job of showing how that affects her even to this day. In the book, she does still have her moments of insecurity, but they are entirely focused on the fact that she is a bombshell. She is a baddie. 10 out of 10. Dexter mentions she looks more like a front page model than a police officer. This does unfortunately result in the fact that no one takes her seriously because of it. She's often used as bait, with the other detectives getting to dress her up in hooker clothing, and they call her Boob Einstein. Because if tits were brain, then she'd be Einstein. Which, while mean and not appropriate in the workplace, is also incredibly funny, and I might steal it. It is obviously and fairly an insecurity of hers, as when Dexter makes a joke about her costume, she gets flustered and blushes. Honestly, I feel bad for her. It really sucks to be harassed like that in the workplace, and she deserves better. I'm sorry, Debbie. Not gonna lie, she does come across as very one note in the book. I mean, not just her, a lot of the characters do, but every scene of hers is one of two things. What is wrong with you, Dexter? And I want to be a detective, but no one's taking me seriously. The second character who has an effect on Dexter is very obviously Brian, the ice truck killer. This is an interesting one, as I mentioned before that Brian doesn't date Deb, which means he only directly comes in at the end of the book when he kidnaps her. The two brothers meet, he reminds Dexter of who he is and their trauma, and then he dips. Yep, Dexter doesn't kill him in this story, and he's a reoccurring character in later books. I will say, similarly to Dexter, Brian comes across as a lot more unemotional in the book. I'm sorry, you can't be like, I don't feel things because I'm a monster, while also being like, boo-hoo, your foster dad rejected me and I'm sad. Again, even in Original Sins, he lets Henry go because Henry's better for Dexter than he is. That is an emotional choice, and it proves that despite the killings, Brian does not lack emotions. His emotions are just dulled and fucked up, same as Dexter. In the book, Brian goes to find Dexter not for any real emotional bond or search for a family. He's just curious. He just wants to see if his brother is like him. He's looking for a new experience, a buddy. But there's no real hard feelings about them being separated. The scene is really intense with him expecting Dexter to kill Deb, but mostly he's very amused by the whole situation. He's pressuring Dexter more because he wants to see if he'll do it. He doesn't particularly seem angry or betrayed by the fact that Dexter doesn't want to do it. Also, he's egging Dexter on, but he doesn't actually try and kill Deb himself. He doesn't want to kill Deb without Dexter. Brian and Dexter's relationship in the book can mostly be seen through the communication of murder. There's almost a psychic connection between the two. Every time Brian kills, it's almost like a text message to Dexter. Dexter admires his work and begins dreaming about the killings. But he doesn't dream about the killings after they happen. He dreams about it before they happen, and then he wakes up to find out that the murders that he just dreamt about have happened. There is also more of a psychological connection between the brothers. Aside from the blood, they also like cold and tight spaces, aspects of being in the container with their mum that the show just doesn't explore. It gets to the point that Dexter starts to believe that's him doing the killings in his sleep, that the dark passenger is taking him over. Part of the reason he went to go find Debs is to see if it was him or another person. I guess the question is, why didn't Dexter kill Deb if he is as emotionally numb as I describe him? He says it's because he's fond of her. He prefers her over other people, so he'd rather not kill her, and he offers Brian for them to kill someone else. It's like your favorite chair. Just to be clear though, he was willing to do it. He almost does kill Deb. The knife is literally going towards her before they're interrupted by LaGuerta, who gives him time to think and then he changes his mind. But he was 100% down to chop her up. Show Dexter didn't even consider it for a second. He mainly doesn't do it because of the code of Harry, so there is an implication of something deep down, like a familial bond or responsibility. Or maybe it just wouldn't satisfy his dark passenger. LaGuerta is the third character I mentioned in the list of characters with more time spent on them. I mean, I didn't count words or anything, but she's definitely on par with at least Debs. Which, to be honest, I found a bit weird, because despite having a big role in the show, it was much more balanced amongst the characters. I wouldn't say she was a massive focus, any more so than Masuka or Angel. I mean, it isn't a problem. What is a problem is she fucking sucks in the books, man. Like, she sucks. I kinda liked her in the show, not ethically. Sleeping with your boss's husband in order to get her to have a mental breakdown is next level crazy. But that's not all she is. There's another side to her. She cared about Dokes. Her relationship with Baptista softened her. She gave me the vibe of an ambitious girl boss who was in a male-dominated field, so she had to become ruthless. But then she slowly softens over the course of the series. She wasn't my favorite character by any stretch, but they did what they wanted with her, and I liked her role in the story. But yeah, forget all that. While the show kept all of her negative traits, they also gave her lots of positive traits that do not exist in the book. Firstly, in the show, they have shown her to be dismissive of Debs. I get the feeling that she doesn't really like Debs because she's ambitious and she kind of has an in with LaGuerta's boss. So she kind of sees Debs as a bit of a competition. Also, Debs keeps going over her head and LaGuerta obviously doesn't like that. This is just a thought though. So let me know what you think. Why does LaGuerta not like Debs in the show? But basically in the show she's dismissive of Debs, but what she doesn't do, which LaGuerta does in the book, is use Debs' gender against her. Remember the Einstein nickname earlier? If tits were brain, you'd be Einstein? Yeah, LaGuerta started that to make sure that no one took Debs seriously. Also, while in the show she's shown to be political, she's also shown to be good at her job. When she puts the politics down and focuses on the cases, she's a force to be reckoned with. In the book, everyone agrees she is terrible at her job, not only as a boss but also as a detective. No one respects her. Dexter literally says this about her. To be truthful, she couldn't catch any of them unless they hurled themselves off a building and into the front seat of her car. She solves nothing. She doesn't care about the cases at all, and she only cares about the credit. Ah, but you might say she is the one that suspected Dexter was involved and followed him to the crime scene. That shows some level of intelligence and wit. Dexter sure thought so. He was genuinely shocked to see her following him. Not because he finally got outed, but he could not believe it was her who did it. He wondered if he had underestimated her all these years, so he asked her, why did you think something was wrong? Why did you follow me? Right, listen, do you know what evidence she used? What made her suspicious of Dexter? Let's do a little exercise. I want you to try and guess. Write it down on a piece of paper, and then throw that piece of paper out the window. Because this is the craziest thing you've heard come out of someone's mouth since the last time Kanye West spoke. I like that joke because it'll always be relevant. No matter what year you're watching this video, I know Kanye's still saying crazy ass things. Anyway, you ready? You sitting down? Alright, cool. In the previous scene, I mentioned that Rita called Dexter to tell him that she enjoyed their time together. Wink, wink. LaGuerta hears the voicemail that she left Dexter. She asks Dexter about his girlfriend and then proceeds to hit on him. Aggressively, I might add. He talks about physically pressing herself up against him. The scene ends with her sticking her hands down his trousers unprovoked. Now remember, she is his boss. This is their workplace and she knows he has a girl. She literally heard her on the voicemail. So then Dexter reacts and he pushes her away and LaGuerta falls on the ground. And you might be like, cinematic rants, what does this have to do with her thinking he's a suspect? Great question, dear viewer. Well, she then starts to stalk him because in her own words, she can't be the problem, so he must be crazy. In her own words, And then you push me on the floor like I'm some kind of pig, and I wonder, what's wrong with me? I got bad breath, and then it hits me. It's not me, it's you. There's something wrong about you. Brother, she sexually harassed him, was delusional enough to think she's unrejectable, decided he was the problem, stalked him, and then got lucky he was a killer. Well, lucky's a strong word because she dies at the end of the book. Brian rips her to shreds. Did she deserve to die? Of course not. Did she suck? Absolutely. Now, there is another character who has significant influence on Dexter, but I didn't include it in the list of 3 because it isn't really a person. It's his dark passenger. In the show, Dexter refers to his dark passenger, but it usually feels more like he's talking about his urges. In the book, the dark passenger feels like another person. Dexter even talks to it. "Talk to me," I whispered to the dark passenger. "Tell me what you have done." When Dexter is killing, he switches to we pronouns to make it feel like he was possessed by an entity. Even his voice changes when he's with them, becoming deeper and darker. And when he finally meets Brian, his brother's voice changes in a very similar way. In the scene where he almost kills Debbie, he acts like he can't control his body, despite the fact there's a part of him that's fighting it. I sort of see his relationship with the dark passenger as similar to Moon Knight and Khonshu, with Dexter being an avatar for murder. Alright, now we're going to circle back. Do you remember when I talked about the word ritual describing the differences between the 2 Dexters? It's time to finally give you the answer. What I meant by this is there are 2 different definitions of the word ritual. Ritual, a series of actions or type of behavior regularly followed by someone. This is show Dexter. He does the things that he does so that he doesn't get caught. While there does seem to be some enjoyment in the process, a method to the madness, if you will, with Dexter keeping the blood in order to have a collection, mostly it feels like he does these things because Harry showed him how to cover his track and he doesn't want to get caught so he can keep killing. But then we come to the second definition. Ritual, a religious ceremony consisting of a series of actions performed according to a prescribed order. Now this is book Dexter. Yes, he does the things he does not to get caught, but mostly it feels like Harry was a priest who gave him this prescribed order and taught Dexter how to sacrifice to a god, or in this case a dark passenger. He sees the whole ritual as a necessity, with each step being important to give to the dark passenger. When he kills someone spontaneously, even though he doesn't get caught, he finds the kill completely unsatisfying because it didn't satiate the dark passenger, because he didn't do any of the ritual. Dexter isn't scared of being caught. He talks about the idea with some level of mild indifference to amusement. He talks about how people will see him after he's caught. To amplify this point further, an important part of the code of Henry is to only kill people who deserve it. It's a big point in contention in the second season when Dokes was taken and Dexter couldn't kill him. Book Dexter would have ripped him to shreds.
To shreds, you say?
Dexter talks about how he almost killed an innocent guard if he caught him. Would it be against the code? Yes, so it wouldn't be Dexter's first choice. It wouldn't satiate the dark passenger, but he is still willing to do it if they put him in that situation. There's also a greater feeling of dominance and power in its kill. Show Dexter does make the victims reflect on what they did, yes, but he also uses it as kind of an excuse to vent. It's almost like a form of therapy where he can talk and get his feelings out and no one's going to tell anyone or run to the police, for very obvious reasons. But Dexter in the book, his whole point is that he wants them to feel scared and powerless. His dark passenger wants them to know that they're beneath him. Now, the more observant viewer might now realize that I've only been comparing the first book and mostly the first season. There is a reason for that. This is because after the first book, there is no similarities in the story. The first book is basically the first 2 episodes and the finale of season 1. What I mean by that is everything that follows season 2 onwards, completely original story. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of everything that happens in the story past the first book. Firstly, Dokes doesn't die. He gets kidnapped, mutilated, ends up tongueless, but he knows Dexter's secret he just can't tell anyone. Brian keeps popping up across several books. Rita lives for much longer, but it turns out that Cody and Esther are little Dexter-like sociopaths because of the abuse of their dad, and Dexter trains them in the code of Harry. They are straight up killer children. My least favorite kind of killer. Deb knows that Dexter's a killer, obviously finds out at the end of the first book, and she just kind of rolls with it. No breakdown, no exile, just, well, I guess this is what we're doing now. And the dark passenger, which was the crazy one for me, it's not a metaphor for his inner violence, it's not an inner voice, it's literally an ancient demon that lives inside of him. Dexter loses it at one point, so he no longer is able to kill, starts getting feelings, and he becomes depressed before getting it back. To be honest, this did explain a lot about the dark passenger in the book. When I'm talking about it felt like a possession and a separate entity, because it literally is. That being said, I fucking hate the idea. Why would you possibly do that? I dislike when they take autonomy from the character. At one point, Dexter becomes a consultant on a movie set and cheats on Rita with an actress. And the end of the story involves Dexter, Brian, and Deb going up against a cartel kingpin and Dexter dying on an exploding yacht. So yeah, there is literally no point comparing past season 1 and book 1 for a direct comparison because there are no similarities. So question, what do I think overall? I think this is a very rare case of the show being better than the books. Dexter was a very hit or miss show, but it was enjoyable at its peaks. I especially loved season 1. I think I've rewatched it several times now. That being said, I prefer the representation of sociopathy in the books. I really like Dexter and Brian in the books. I prefer their dynamic, and I prefer them as individuals. That being said, I prefer every other character in the show. So that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop me a little comment, subscribe, all that algorithm goodness. If you want more content similar to this one, I've got you. Check out my Joe book versus show video and find out why he is the worst person in fiction. It's a high bar, I know, but I said what I said. Otherwise, keep an eye out for other videos coming out soon. See you in the next one.